Can you hear the talker in your head? It doubts, compares, and worries non-stop. We talk about that voice here. I'm Alex Yu. Welcome to Mind Triumph. Welcome, Ellie. It's so amazing to have you here. Welcome to the Mind Triumph podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, for the listeners and the viewers, Ellie Dobreva is a clinical counselor with over 10 years of practicing mindfulness, which is going to be very valuable since this is what we'll be talking in the second part of this Mind Triumph podcast. As you guys know, we talk about mindfulness and mental health, and specifically the talker in our mind. But before we get into that, which is the second part of our podcast, we're going to have Ellie tell us a bit about herself. We'll have a few conversations around her practice, getting to know Ellie, connecting with her, and then we can ease into mindfulness in the second part. So Ellie, welcome again. Could you tell us with a few sentences a little bit about yourself and see where the conversation takes us?
Yeah, of course. So thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I always love talking about mindfulness and mental health. It's my passion. So, as you said, my name is Ellie, and professionally speaking, I'm a clinical counselor. My title is Master Practitioner in Clinical Counseling, and I have been a licensed therapist for about 6 years now. I'm also a parenting coach, so I help a lot of parents, navigate the challenges of parenthood. And I also am a big passionate supporter for children's mental health. So before becoming a therapist, I was in the early childhood education industry for many years, working with kids, also managing and recruiting and training teachers. And so in terms of mindfulness, I started practicing. Someone introduced to me the app Headspace when it first came out about 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit over 10 years ago. And so I remember started practicing that, and it honestly changed my life. It changed the way I viewed my day-to-day life. And I've been practicing mindfulness and meditation ever since. I can forget anything else during my day, but this I never forget. So it's become a habit, more of a lifestyle.
Beautiful. And of course, it'll change your life. It changes everybody's life once you get into that topic. And I took a few notes because you touched on a few very interesting topics, which is where I think the conversation will later lead us. But I wanted to ask you first, how did you get into clinical counseling, or even earlier, like you said, in parenthood, children? What led you into that path?
Right. Yeah. Also, that's a bit of an interesting story actually, because growing up, I always loved being around children, and I remember when everyone was asking me where will I go after high school, I thought that I'm going to go and study psychology. And so that was my kind of my dream. I was always fascinated, was more of an observing child. So I would watch people's facial expressions and would listen to them talk. And, but life led me to a completely different education. I actually studied economics and civil engineering. But while I was actually putting myself through school, I started babysitting. So I was looking after young kids so I can pay, for my study books and some of my classes. And I loved what I was doing. And then later on, when I graduated, I actually went to work on cruise ships out of Miami, Florida. Yeah, when I was 23 years old when I left Bulgaria.
So at age 23, you already have an interesting life. Things have been
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
That's
full of
wonderful.
adventures. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just met someone who told me about cruise ships, and yeah, just by
And
the
you said,
time.
let me go. It sounds cool. Let's just jump in and go.
Yeah, I was single. I wanted to travel, so I've always wanted to travel. So this was the perfect combo. Get paid while you travel. And so once I started working for Carnival Cruise Lines. And long story short, I worked there for it was almost 7 years, but I worked with children. And then it became my passion. I started learning a lot about how you connect with children, child development. And when I moved here to Canada, to Vancouver, I went to school and I studied early childhood education for a couple of years. And then I got my license to practice. So I spent in the industry about 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
And so while I was working with kids, I work with many children who have like learning disabilities, or children who may be on the autism spectrum, and children in general who had, hard time kind of integrating into daycare and being kind of pulled away from their parents. At certain points, parents have to go back to work after mat leave, especially moms. And so I noticed that the parents needed a lot of supports as well.
Okay.
And I think I kind of outgrew, or I reached the point where I had learned a lot, practiced a lot. So I also wanted to become self-employed. So I started taking courses on life coaching, with a specializing in parenting coaching. So I learned a lot about child development. I learned a lot about overall human psychology, and that started being good. I started getting hired to do workshops. And then the next step was to become a licensed practitioner, because people can use my when they use my services, they can claim my services and get reimbursed by the health insurance company. So this was my main reason
Wonderful.
to become a clinical counselor. And
Wonderful.
also, I don't know, I constantly learn. It's an ever evolving industry. What we learned about Freud is no longer valid. The more we learn about the neuropsychology and neurobiology of the human brain. So it's been an amazing journey. Yeah. So that's
Absolutely.
how
And
I got from, here from there. It was
from
quite the
there,
journey. I skipped through a few different industries.
no, for sure.
Hmm.
But as you said, it seems like the journey,
Hmm.
like it's very clear how it led you here. Like
Oh yeah.
everything kind of added on top of the previous step,
Yeah.
and
It was a
here you are,
natural kind of
right? It's
naturally evolving process for me.
progression.
Hmm.
I love it. And for people listening, Ellie is registered. She just said that her services are covered under the insurance plans, right, Ellie? So
Yeah, so it depends on their plan. For some people's plan, it covers certain services. So I always tell people, just check in with your insurance company. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But
their plans can be
most
different.
plans do cover. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you get this amazing experience, and I know from feedback that I've heard from Ellie and her clients, wonderful, wonderful practitioner.
No,
Thank you for
thank you.
sharing that little story. But I want to take you back to the cruise ship. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Sure.
that Ellie at age 23 probably didn't have any idea she would end up in Vancouver and being a counselor practitioner. What did you learn there? That's talking about psychology. I mean, you worked with a lot of people. You were
Mm-hmm.
bound to learn about human psychology on those boats, correct? What was a few
Yeah.
nuggets? What did you learn
Yeah.
or gain this experience working on the
Right.
boats?
Well, so for background, I on the cruise ship is very diverse environment. And so coming from a country where it's not very diverse, like diving into that was a bit of a cultural shock for me. And at some point, someone told me, we have 52 different nationalities on board the ship, which was
52, 52.
52. Yeah. So which was pretty amazing. And I remember something that I will remember for the rest of my life. We had a group of children, and I remember there was this little boy, who was, by, I don't know, by kind of common denominator, he was like mischievous and misbehaving. He would not listen what we ask of him. He was kind of throwing toys everywhere. He was young, 3 years old. And I
Hmm.
remember gently pulling him towards me and saying, I need to talk to you, because I was trying to set some behavior boundaries.
Hmm.
And I remember he would not look me in the eye. And I would say, please look at me when I'm talking to you, right? And so I had a conversation with his mom later on, and she said, oh, Miss Ellie, I can tell you why that is. So we are originally from Japan, and in Japan, in our culture, looking at someone who is senior in the eyes is a sign of disrespect.
Correct.
And so when someone is of a position of authority, or someone who is senior, you're not supposed to look at them in the eye. You like avert your eyes. So what a beautiful, and of course I profusely apologize. And in my head, I'm like, wow, you're still learning, right? So um, the child was too young to explain to me. And this is, I always hold this kind of in my heart and in my mind that don't judge, be curious.
Be curious. I love it.
And this would be happen at the beginning of my journey. And I remember moving through like different stages of my journey on cruise ships, and having friends from all over the world: Australia, South Africa, Japan, Indonesia, obviously Eastern Europe. I tended to like hang out with a lot of people who are from my side of the world, but also like the Caribbean, the States. And what I learned is that no matter where people are, they always carry a little piece of their cultural heritage in
For
them.
sure.
And it's such a beautiful gift for them to be allowed to express that and
For
embrace
sure.
it. And so when they put in a situation, they have to shut this down and hide it, it's not good for the human psyche. So
No, it
yeah, so
isn't.
this was one of the biggest lessons. And this is what I strive to do when I work with my clients, like learn from them, not assume that, oh, I'm from this country or that country. I don't assume based on my previous experience that I know about the culture. I approach them from a place of curiosity rather than kind of judgment. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Don't judge, be curious. I'm going to pick that statement again later when we talk about the talker because it's a good
Mm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the child example that you gave, what a wonderful and impactful that example you gave. It
Mm-hmm.
seems
Thank
like
you.
you've got this inner talent. Is it talent or just gift of working with people, or sorry, kids, children, people too, I suppose, but kids is what we are
Mm-hmm.
talking about right now. Was that because you had little sisters, or people, like, is that from how, where is it coming from, that gift?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I think looking back, like on my mother's side, like my grandma was really great with us. Like she would always play all these, she'd be silly with us and read books with us. Both my parents are pretty playful and silly people. They can be.
Well, that's
And
good.
my sister too. So I feel like it's kind of in our DNA. But also it's funny because I take myself as a person, sometimes I take myself too seriously. Being around kids allows me to truly be myself, and I think my nature is just being a very playful person and being confident in my playfulness. And I don't know, I'm very intuitive, so I'm an empath. I've done
Mhm.
all the tests. I know I'm an empath and very intuitive, and so I think kids can sense that.
Kids
Kids
relate,
can
yes.
sense when someone is not being authentic, and they naturally gravitate towards people who sees the children as they truly are. And yeah, so I have to say that yeah, I was a pretty good at my job, and I even kind of I did get a really very lovely acknowledgement from the government of family and children. A few years ago, they gave me like some sort of award of the Educator of the Year, which was really in BC, which was
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. I haven't
That's
thought about that in a
amazing.
long time because I haven't worked with kids in so long. But
That's amazing.
my director nominated me, and it was really cool that um they acknowledged my efforts to really advocate for children and children's kind of organic way to
Beautiful.
learn. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you definitely deserve that. Be connecting with children in an authentic way. It's no easy task.
No.
And of what you're telling us, that's a talent, but coupled with obviously work and an education you've put into, and that self growth that you've had in this path. This is
Mm.
amazing. So no doubts you deserve that award. So now we're on the boat. You got this kind of message. Okay, I've learned this great lesson,
Mhm.
and seems like I'm connecting with these beautiful little people. The kids, these wonder children here that are the future. And how from there you are ending up in Vancouver to continue education? How did you choose Vancouver?
Oh, well, so I actually met my ex-husband on the cruise
Okay,
ship.
so there was somebody. It's
Yes.
usually, yes, there's a somebody.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so he was working on the cruise ships, which is interesting because a few years before I met him, I remember coming to Vancouver with the cruise ship on our way to Alaska, and I remember getting off in Canada Place and walking in Cole Harbor, and I
Oh,
had this
beauty.
feeling of like awe in the beauty of Vancouver. And it was summertime, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I could totally see myself living here. And then I was like dreaming to like live in a place close to the water, which I am now. And I'm like, dreams do come true. And yeah, a few years forward, and yeah, I ended up coming here, and I
So you
settled in.
manifested it. You
I'm
manifested
yes,
it.
I guess I meditated on it and I manifested it. It presented itself in material form.
Well,
Yes.
that this sounds amazing, and people. I mean, for all of us, it's a reminder that if it's authentic desire, what do you call it? Manifestation or pure desire,
Yeah.
meditation,
Hmm.
visualization, whatever it is,
Yes.
they do come true. Sometimes they may take a while and might not be exactly perfect the way you've, but it might be a slight angle to it, but they do come true.
Yeah, I
And
think the universe kind of knows what we need and gives it to
right,
us. Yes.
right. And that I can relate to this because when I was little, I had a little notebook and I put down that I want to live in California, Orange County, California, because I'd been watching a TV show back then, and then
Hmm.
I put that away. Went on with my education, went to the States here, and then maybe 20 years after that, I've written this. I went back home. My mom gave me this notebook, and then I see I want to close to the ocean, right? And here we
Hmm.
are in Vancouver. Not
Yeah.
the it's the same ocean, not in California, just a little bit further north. But I don't no regrets. It's still absolutely gorgeous and beautiful.
Hmm.
So dreams do come true. Thanks for
They
sharing that,
do.
Ellie.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. And so after that, you kind of said that you went did some more education and training and then
Hmm.
work with parents. Is that still the trajectory? Are you working with children, or is it more with adults? And yeah, maybe a bit about that.
Right. Yes. So I don't work directly with children, though I do counseling for children sometimes. It's kind of a case by case.
Case
It
by case.
depends.
Mhm.
Yes. But I do, I currently do a lot of workshops for early childhood educators and parents. So things like teaching emotional intelligence, effective communication,
Wow.
executive functioning skills. So it's all about educating the grown-ups so they can take better care of the kids. And
Yeah.
so the grown-up talker knows what's up,
It
which
does.
I know we'll talk about. Yes.
We'll talk about that. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
But what's the difference? I mean, what's the single difference between working with a parent and a child, or an adult and a child, when we're talking about counseling or
Yes.
that kind of work?
Sure. So children, first of all, their cognitive development is different than the adults. And children are they're living much more in the moment and authentically because they have not yet, and it depends on the age.
Hmm.
But the younger they are, the more they have not been conditioned just yet. And so it's easier because they say how they feel and their feelings are very unfiltered because they have not mastered yet the emotional regulation. So if we really observe, kids are already communicating with us through their
Oh,
behavior.
hands down, absolutely.
So it's all about us. But when we see the behavior, we see sometimes defiance. So we see our ego sees it as they're doing that on purpose. So I always tell parents, trust me, your child does not wake up in the morning in their cute little pajamas, stare at the ceiling, and think about a plan how to piss you off in 17 different ways today. Kids don't have that cognitive foresight. They're just very spontaneous.
They are.
And so,
That's true.
we laugh. I try to bring a bit of humor because then parents, they strive to be perfect and then they feel like they're failing. And so I want them to feel self-compassion that they've never done this before.
Beautiful.
And they're,
Beautiful.
just to learn. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful self-compassion, and I'm going to touch on that in a little bit
Hmm.
because that's a big. Are we, Ellie? This is a big question, but are we better parents than we were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago? Is there such thing as evolution of parenting, parenting? But and where is it going? The right direction?
Oh, wow, good question. So I would say yes, there is evolution. I think that every generation of parents are just trying to respond
Mm.
to the way their children are in this world. It's because we have different generation of children, we're going to have a different generation of parents. But what I can say is every parent is bringing into their parenting style something they learned from their parents.
So there's a continuation for
There's a
sure.
continuation, but based on like what I've learned, all the research I have done, we are at one of the most difficult eras of parenting right now because of the human to human disconnect.
Well, I'm so happy you brought that up, right? Because I
Yes.
was going to ask, like, is it easy? And this is not an easy question, but or maybe not the correct question. Is it
Yeah.
easy to be a parent nowadays? And I think you alluded to it. Can you tell a little more about it? Because based on
Mm.
what I'm seeing around me, a lot of in my age and even younger, my brother's age, my cousin's age,
Mhm.
adults, young adults, and maybe early, like in their 30s, they shy away from from marriage and from children. There's a
Mm.
fear. Why is
Mhm.
that? Is it because it's difficult?
Oh, that's quite a complex question, but I would say maybe the top three reasons that I see and I hear
Please.
from people is the world doesn't seem like a very safe place to bring children to, so it comes with sense of responsibility. Also, the whole definition of family units is changing. And the third one I would say is again tied up to the way the world is, economic reasons.
Economic
Yeah,
reasons.
I would say because one of my specialties, which I didn't mention earlier, is I help people who struggle with infertility and pregnancy loss. And I work with some fertility clinics. I have a lot of people in their 30s who come to me because they're struggling to conceive. And now exploring a bit of the background, they haven't done anything wrong, but in terms of like life choices or anything
Hmm.
like that. But I think the levels of stress and the declining of the quality of the foods we put into our body. So when you put all of these factors together,
Complex.
yes, and also people do have we all have inner instincts to procreate. It's part of our biology. However, we have so many distractions around us that we're not able to access these inner instincts, or many of us are just kind of numb.
Mm.
So it's very complex, as I said. It's hard
Very
to fit
complex.
into like few minutes, but this is what I'm observing. Yeah.
I asked you, and I did ask that question, and you gave me a beautiful answer. Not not an easy answer and a complex answer, not the one we can have a solution to right away. But if
Hmm.
you could say one thing, because there's a lot of things that come to, like you said, it's not just one problem we can fix. There's the
Hmm.
food, there's the stress, there's the disconnect,
Hmm.
the financial pressures, there's a lot happening.
Hmm.
What's the one thing? I would like to finish with this first part with that question. What's the one thing parents that you think parents can do to to improve parenting and their experience of parenting today?
Just spend quality time with your child. And quality time is no devices, just sit with them and play, talk, I don't know, roll on the ground, giggle, read a book.
Mhm. Be a
Just that's
child.
it. It's be a child. It's a human to human connection. It's crucially important for children's neurobiology, uh, for development of attachment, which later on shows up as self-confidence, good mental health, good physical health as well. I'm trying to keep this short and sweet, but
No,
obviously
but no,
that's
it's
it.
beautiful answer. Quality time and whatever that means for you and your child. Like you
Hmm.
said, Ellie, you can roll down the grass, you can paint, do whatever it takes to
Yes.
be that
Yeah.
to have this
And
quality time.
the eye con not that this is the eye contact, but this exchange of chemistry is very important. Just be there, holding, cuddling, very important for their
Being,
neurobiology.
being.
Hmm.
Just within these first 20 minutes for the listeners, I'm sensing how much wisdom there is in this wonderful human Ellie. I mean, we could probably talk six different podcasts
We
and
could,
still
yes.
not get all the wisdom out of that beautiful woman. But I do want to switch to the second part, which is very relatable to what we just been talking about. And I talk about mindfulness, mental health, whatever word that works best for you. But with emphasis on the talker, and that's really the human ego. I call it the talker at Mind Triumph. We label it
Mm-hmm.
so that we can isolate it and we can talk about it, bring awareness. And what a wonderful opportunity to talk to Ellie, who is, she's worked with many people, met many people. And
Mm-hmm.
Ellie, switching into the topic of Mind Triumph and the talker in you. When I say the talker in your mind or in your head, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Mm. Well, so I call it the inner critic.
The critic, okay?
Yeah, the inner critic. Yes.
That's
And
it.
I incorporate that when I do like cognitive behavioral therapy with clients who have anxiety or depression, especially anxiety. So yeah, it's everyone has I like that name, the talker, because there's always someone talking. Um, yeah, the inner critic, I call it the critic because most people, say that it is someone who criticizes. And the talker, actually, I like it because it could be someone who says positive things, right? And empowering things.
Mhm. It could
Um,
pretend to do it too. I mean,
yes,
there's multiple angles to it,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
The inner critic. I
So,
like that. You
yeah.
said self-compassion.
Hmm.
You said that, and I'm gonna read self-compassion, which is one of the things you repeated as a powerful part of your therapies.
Hmm.
The critic, as you said, the talker, is definitely does not provide self-compassion. That
Mm-mm.
is not
Yeah.
compassionate, right? Which is what we need in this world. But I
Hmm.
think I don't think we can argue about it. It's and so why do we have it? Like, why do we listen to it when it's not really giving us anything good? It seems like, especially
Mm.
self-compassion.
Mm. Well, so most of us who do listen to it is because we are it takes a certain self-awareness to be kind of brought forward in order for us to isolate the two. So
Mm,
the real us, the one that needs the support. And there's a beautiful modality in psychology called internal family systems. And so they it separates the ego and the self into a few different parts, and there's like names for them. But what I do with my clients is we give the inner critic, which I call it a name, a different name. And so when the inner critic or that like, talker on their
talker.
shoulder just whispering things to them like you're not good enough, how keeps them awake at night, and you just keep on ruminating, and they give a name they don't like. And so then we do this exercise where when they hear that voice, they say it out loud, like tell it like, I don't know, to shut up or like other things, whatever feels empowering for them to set that boundary.
Oh,
And it
beautiful.
separates the two. But basically what that is, so I'm trying to keep it simple. The talker, the inner critic, is the part of our ego that at some point in our lives was there to protect us. And I know it may
Oh,
sound silly. So let's just say let's just say I was very, like, I feel very nervous, and there's a voice in my head telling me, don't go to this podcast. What if you make a fool out of yourself? Right. And, like, what will people think? Right. So most of us, when we go to do something new, which like public speaking is not new to me, but every time you go into uncharted territory, there's a bit of nervousness, right?
mhm. Of course.
Um, if if I stop myself from doing that, in a way, I'm protecting myself from like a failure or embarrassment,
I
right?
see.
And
Yeah.
up
Okay.
to a certain point, this maybe helped us until we build the skills how to manage the potential failure or potential disappointment or potential embarrassment. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Right?
So
And
then,
so it's built as a coping mechanism up to a certain point, and then at some point in our lives, it stops serving us. In fact, it prevents us from growing and evolving.
wow. Okay. So this is absolutely beautiful, and I love going and like, so don't we have time? So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be short when you need to explain. This is beautiful explanation,
Mm-hmm.
and there's several things that I want to start there. So when you say it helped us cope, I totally agree with this. At some point, it was necessary, I suppose. Are you talking about in an individual life, or are we talking about human evolution as a species?
That's a good question. Mostly, I would say individual.
Mhm.
And again, if we're to unpack this a little bit, so when we're born, we're these pure beings,
Mhm.
and we have no ego. Like
No
we,
talker. Talker
no
doesn't exist
talker,
yet.
no, we're
Yes.
just all doer. We just do. We
Mhm.
just do. We run, we paint, we grow, we laugh,
We
and
don't
so
judge. We're curious.
we
We
don't
explore.
judge. We're very curious, and so the talker is developed. So basically, what happens is, um, our parents, they try to protect us. Like I would say, most parents really mean well,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of projection of our parents' own unhealed wounds, or maybe our parents' talker, who is
Mhm.
projected onto us. And if
Ooh.
you hear this repeated criticism or negative statements or fear projections over and over again, it creates your own ego, your own talker.
Mm.
And so in a way, our parents create presence without being present. Our parents and caregivers, because when you hear these voices, if I take back my clients to when it first started, it always goes back into their childhood when they first heard this, and it stayed with them.
So in a way, it can be a spin-off. My talker is a spin-off of my parents' talker in a way,
Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
least
Or your parents' projection of their own talker. Like if the way your parents project, because all parents project onto their children, right? We're not
for
gonna,
sure.
and projection can mean like, don't touch that. It's dangerous. Don't get dirty. You're gonna pick up bacteria or like germs off the ground. Don't go into the sand, right? Don't eat that. It's bad. And so it's obviously our parents try to protect us, or, you know, I don't know, like I'm just trying to think of more positive examples because I don't want to dive into like trauma counseling, but some of these statements from our parents don't even realize that they're saying them. For example, a mother who may be struggling with body image may tell her daughter, "Are you eating chips? Stop eating chips. When you eat chips, you get fat," right?
Well,
Or
imagine
like,
what an impact that has on a.
because when we're children,
Like,
we're clean slate. We absorb
Mhm.
everything our parents tell us as the truth. We don't have the cognitive development yet to discern what's true and what's not true. So what our parents tell us, it's true. And our brain stores that information.
Okay, so but there I am. I come clean slate, and then like I start to now develop this talker, my talker. Let's call him now
Mm-hmm.
for the example. I put myself here. My mom, my dad. In my case, my mom was really strict. You're never good enough, and I hear
Mm-hmm.
that loud and clear in my head now. The
Mm-hmm.
talker is got that message perfectly when I
Oh,
was
yeah,
little,
the
right?
not good enough club.
Right. They're
We're
not
all
good enough,
there. Yes.
right? So,
Yeah.
and then my father's talk, I don't know, maybe he didn't really much care about, I don't know, he wasn't as present somehow. He was
Mm-hmm.
there, but he wasn't as present. But my mom's talk, I hear clear. So then I grow, I have a name, my talk has got the identity, it continues to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I assume it as me. Is that what's happening? I'm assuming that voice as myself.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And is that why it's so difficult then to first understand that there's a difference between my true self,
Mm-hmm.
which was that clean slate, that being, and that
Mm-hmm.
voice, and then second phase, the ability to detach, give it
Yes.
that bad name, like you said. Is that what makes it difficult? Because I thought that was me.
Yeah. So we think it's us, it becomes part of us because the ego is part of us, right? And so it's important to separate it, but we only try to do the separation of the ego only after we have developed a good, we call that window of tolerance. So let's just say, uh, someone, if nowadays, let's just say, if I was to tell you you're not good enough, right, in something that you do, if you completely dissolve your ego and you have no defense mechanisms, you may become very hurt. So if you build that self-confidence, knowing I know what I'm worth, and people will say hurtful things to me, but that has nothing to do with me, then that means the talker can talk and you can be like, it's okay. I know what you're saying. It's not true. So it's all about putting your talker on trial, so to speak, and always coming from a place of curiosity and saying, is this really true? Where is the proof? And then the next step is your brain is going to pull out from the file system all the times you are not good enough and
to
say,
prove it.
here it is. But the thing is, most of these examples belong in the past and they're held up to a standard that's not realistic. And so it's interesting how people think I'm not good enough. And when I ask them, when do you know you're good enough? Like,
Ooh,
when is
that's a
it
good
going to
question.
sit down and be like, I'm good enough now? And most of them have no answer because there's no measuring kind of scale for that. And so again, it's building self-awareness.
But where's that self? I mean, yes, I am here now, and
Yes.
I worked. This was me discovering. My parents, like you said, they meant well, 100%.
Yeah.
They meant well,
Yeah.
100%. I had for the longest time, I had this hate build that they did that to me, and then I realized if there's no forgiveness, there's no walking past this. Like it's just like
Yeah.
so. I've gone that, and years self work and building this awareness. But where it's not taught in school, if they did it, I missed it. I didn't see this in
No,
school.
it's
Where,
not.
where does that self-awareness comes in? Is it with professionals like yourself? How does that first step come?
But there's a lot of venues you can go, like obviously you can go to like a therapist, and many people think they have to go to, if they go to therapy, something terrible is wrong with them. In fact, you're just learning skills like this. There are a lot of self-help books, there are a lot of podcasts such as yours, right? It all starts with, for me, it started, I watched a video, I heard something and something clicked. And I myself went to therapy, and I remember talking to my therapist, and she was Eastern European like me. I picked her purpose, so she knew what I've gone through,
Yeah,
in terms of the mental kind of setup that I grew up with.
conditioning.
Yeah, and I think for me, I experienced a life event that was so painful and so that I just felt this compassion for myself, and I said to myself, why am I doing this to myself? Like I deserve it. I'm just being very hard on myself. And it's a lifelong journey. Like, I'm a therapist, and I think I pretty got my kind of stuff together, but I still go through moments of obviously uncertainty and self-doubt. That's part of the human psyche. But it's all about really wanting what you're going through right now, telling yourself, this doesn't no longer works for me. I don't feel good. So feeling
So
that something is off and being curious about trying different things and see how you
so
feel.
are you saying then that there's a you kind of have to reach a threshold of like, okay, what I'm doing
Yeah.
isn't working because I'm
Yes.
not feeling, whether it's headaches, stomach aches, or overall like uncomfortable feeling, this
Yeah.
ease, as they say, unease, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, I got to do something different. Obviously, this is not working.
Yeah. And unfortunately, most people come to me because they have come to a point of their life where they either have like experienced serious chronic illness, or their marriages are falling apart, or they are, I don't know, suicidal, and a lot lose other tend to retain jobs. And so I like the word you said, disease, because a lot of people who say this is disease separate it in two when you're disease.
Ease.
And by the way, the body and the mind are connected. That's what I believe in. And so when you go through this kind of mental turmoil, it shows up in the body and the other way
Absolutely.
around.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
So somatic therapy is something I combine with the talk therapy, and it's very effective. Yeah.
So what can we do then before? Because you said
Yeah.
we're coming to you too late. That's basically what I'm hearing. Like, I mean, right? I mean,
Oh,
not
too
too late,
late.
not too late, but like at the point where now the reversal, like you've got like there's actual challenges, there's health
Mhm.
challenges, right? Like maybe if you saw Ellie, a few years back, we would have been in a much better state. The work might have been easier, right? Like, so what do we need to change in the way those societies, so that we have these meetings with you
Mm.
earlier, or like
Yeah. I had a conversation with someone who, when Bitcoin first came out and people are like, what is this? And so this person had the ability to buy Bitcoin and he didn't. His friend did. And now his friend is like retired at like 41 somewhere in the Caribbean. And this guy works like 12-hour days to try. And so every time he talks, I wish I had known. So I'll say the same thing about mental health and life decisions. If you know better, you would have done better, but you didn't know. We just don't know. And so making informed choices is all about having the mindfulness of, I'm here right now. What can I do about this right now? There's no point of ruminating in the past, and actually worrying about the past is what causes depression, and
Yeah.
worrying about the future is what causes anxiety.
Okay. So the talker comes in again.
The
So
talker comes in. He's always around. He, she, whatever, however people want to label it.
Mhm.
The talker is there to basically tell us, just to keep us in a box
Yeah.
and like, don't move, don't do
Yeah.
anything. And
In prison.
it's all about befriending the talker and being like, what do you want? What are you afraid of? What's going on?
Is that a good question to ask the talker?
Yeah, yeah. And I do actually an exercise when the talker is going off with pretty like harsh words. I ask my client to imagine themselves as a small child.
Ooh.
Okay. So there's the talker talking and there's the small child. And I ask my client to stand between the two of them and tell the talker, you need to back off, because it's much
Wow.
easier psychologically to protect a small child and feel compassion
Oh.
for a small child than for an adult.
Wow. This is so deep. Okay. And I think let's just unpack this for a second, because this is powerful. Why is it easier to be self-compassionate to you as a child? I think is because this adult version of you, all it has heard from the talker is that you're not good enough, or versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've become this adult that's hard to love. How could you love somebody who's not good enough ever? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? But the child, what Ellie is saying is, the pure innocent child, especially your image of a child, is really difficult not to love and have self-compassion towards
Yeah.
that,
And
right?
it kind of evokes our biological need to protect children. Again,
Hmm.
it's biological.
Wow, powerful,
Yeah.
powerful exercise. This like I think I do something similar myself to with myself sometimes, like
Mm-hmm.
imagining
The
myself,
inner
not
child.
imagine the
Yeah.
inner child,
Yeah.
and you instantly have this. Wow, I do the feel of love towards yourself and self
Yes.
forgiveness, and
Yeah.
that victim that the talker wants you to play, because that's his one of his favorite games is for you to be victim,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
what Ellie was describing, where the friend with the Bitcoin, or later when you say, well, I wish I knew, because you then get in that spiral of being the victim, right? The
It's
talker
easier to
loves
be a
that.
victim because
Yeah.
you don't have to assume responsibility.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Lots of ways to go here from the conversation, because Ellie is, as I knew, giving us lots of gold nuggets here. But you mentioned earlier that we can name the talker, and
Hmm.
I've met and interviewed some people that have already done that, and then have that exercise, like, so that maybe call it a bad name. Let's play like that, how that works. So let's say my talker is nagging at me, that you're late, something is happening, and you're
Hmm.
falling behind, and it's just giving you all these negative the conversation. So I would call him, let's call him Michael, or like give him a name, or is
Sure.
that what?
Yeah. Whatever
Okay,
name you want.
it just came to me. Not that Michael is a bad name, but we
Micah.
gotta have a name. So
Yeah.
Michael,
Michael.
and then what do I do next? So Michael, stop, or
So you can say stop, or you can say some, words like, whatever feels empowering to you, right? Some people give it a face, some people give it a shape, some people give it a color, right? A lot of people describe it as this like black blob of something, or you can just
Mhm.
talk to the air. Mine is Marsha.
Okay,
My
your
talker's
name is
name is
Marsha. Okay.
Marsha. So um, I'll give you an example of like what the process looks like for me. A
Please,
few weeks
please.
ago, yeah, I had to like I had a bit of a kind of a work situation where there was just something for me to solve, and I made a mistake. in a report I was writing for a client.
Oh, the
And
talker
so
loves
the
mistakes.
talker loves mistakes, right? And I'm a recovering perfectionist. I like to, label myself as I used to be. Perfectionism is one of my coping mechanisms and protective mechanism, because if I do it perfectly, which it's never perfect enough, then I'll be loved, and nobody will see me as a
Oh.
flawed person. And so it's interesting how my first, like, the talker, Marsha, was like, see, who told you can do reports? Like, this is what complex, and I was doing psychological report, which is quite a
Mhm.
complex process. And so I literally paused and I said, you need to back off. Like, I've
Like
never
you,
done such a complex, I'm talking out loud to myself.
out loud,
Yeah,
out loud.
out loud. It's so empowering, because there's a difference between thinking it, saying it out loud, because words hold energy. Words, just the vocal cords,
Yeah,
they're so powerful.
yes, and they can ground you too. There's
Yeah,
a
they can ground you. Yeah, and because I'm such a kind of, I do a lot of humming as part of my somatic practice, like activating the vocal cords.
Mhm.
And I'm having a conversation, and my dogs are watching me, and I'm walking around the house, and I'm like, Marsha, you need to stop. Like, I know you're worried about me. You don't need to protect me anymore. I got this.
Wow.
So, but this is like several years of me walking around the house and talking to myself. I talk to myself when I'm outside. And I read something interesting, that all these people that are, like these scholars and these inventors, what they had in common, and they were considered crazy in their time, they all talked out loud to themselves, including
You,
Tesla. And Nikola Tesla is a bit of an inspirational figure. I've read a lot
eh,
about
eh,
him, because he's all about into meditation and manifestation. And so, going back to the day-to-day exercise, I would just say it out loud. You don't need to protect me anymore. I'm okay. Thank
and did
you for
she,
saying that.
did she, did she go away?
Yeah, because as soon as you start talking, you can think and talk at the same time, because when you talk, your words need to pull out,
Mm,
data from the brain. So this is how cognitive behavioral therapy works. You
which
shift.
is beautiful.
So think about this. Your brain was wired with the talker in it. So in order to change that wiring, you need to do the opposite. So positive talk, positive self-affirmation repeatedly. And it takes a while to get into that state. So there's an amazing book called Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman, I think. That's an amazing book that I think everyone should read. And it's about people who
Beautiful.
are, you know, conditioned to be more pessimistic about themselves.
Beautiful. Wow, there's so much. I mean, Eddie also said this is not for some people that I've heard or read that the enlightenment moment comes instantly. I don't necessarily think so. I think most times it's hard work, like Ellie's saying. It's
Mhm.
practice and it's work
It is
uh,
practice.
and
Yeah,
rewiring. If we were to meet Nikola Tesla, if he was alive today, and we asked him about the talker, would he say? Speaking out loud, what do you think he would say to us, to the world? He's one of the most intelligent humans ever lived on this planet, Nikola
right.
Tesla.
I would say that if you befriend your talker, if you befriend it, stop trying to numb it or silence it, you are going to heal much faster, and you're going to reach your goals much faster.
Oh, I love
Because
it.
the,
Okay.
the things that the talker is saying, they have a purpose. They bring up on surface what needs to be brought up on the surface and
Yes.
examined.
Another powerful, like, befriend. Don't,
Befriend.
I say, as part of Mind Triumph, is if you're going to try to win the talker with talking, meaning in your mind, you will lose every time. If you engage with it with more thoughts, it's his game.
Yeah.
You will lose, meaning you stay further in mind, probably
Mm-hmm.
aggravate the storm further, probably be more stressed, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Agreed.
that's what exactly Ellie is saying, with all the things, that the examples she gave us, and especially the befriending
Mm-hmm.
and not engaging to fight it, because you can't. That's a battle you don't fight with fighting. You win it with
Yeah,
befriending
it's
and
gotta be
peace, like
strategic.
strategic. I
Mm-hmm.
really like it. Okay, so back to the example. You gave us an example with Marsha. Now we have to ask why her name is Marsha.
I have no idea. Someone asked me, like my mentor when I was working with years ago. To become a therapist, by the way, you need to go, supposed to go and do your own work before you even dare taking care of other people. Not all therapists do that, but I had to. And I remember that when she asked me, like, what's your name? Instantly, this name came to me. I don't know why.
Marsha.
Marsha.
Nobody in your name is in normal family, friends.
No,
Nobody's called.
no, I
No.
don't. Someone told me there's a Marsha in Scooby-Doo, the movie, and Marsha is actually quite nice. So yeah, I've had some of my clients, name things like, I don't know, Arthur, Neville, Ketchup. Yeah,
I
there was
love it.
some Latin names, so it
Yeah.
depends where people come from. So
Wow,
yeah,
love it.
there's some really funny names, and we also
And that's fine.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
it's very empowering because you
it
start to
is.
take control. Like, you don't get to tell me your name. I'm gonna name you.
Yeah. But the
Mhm.
moment you name the talker, the first most powerful thing that happens is that there is a subtle, maybe not understanding yet, but a subtle separation between you
Subtle
and the
support.
talker.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and
Right?
that's very powerful, and that's the first step. Yeah.
So we don't know where Marsha came from. I like the name.
I
And
love the name.
I have to ask, what is Marsha's favorite sentence today? And what was Marsha's favorite sentence, let's say 5, 10 years ago? I want to know, how does that has evolved for you? Has the language changed? What Marsha is telling you?
Yeah. So I would say, what Marsha mostly says is, it's not enough.
That's my
Yeah, it's
group.
not
Not
enough.
enough.
Yeah. And broad, not just me per se, but like what I do or whatever, it's not enough. And I know where this is coming from, right? But 5, 10 years ago, I would say I don't think she said anything different back then. It's
It
just
was the
like
same.
but the words were much harsher, I would say. It's interesting. I recently found my teenage diaries, like 3 of them. So
Ooh.
there was a lot of Marsha in there, a lot
Oh,
of Marsha.
absolutely.
And where Marsha is now, like Marsha and I are tight right now. She would like try and step in and say it's not enough, and I'm like, well, it's gotta be right now, and that's what you get. It
I
is
love
enough
it.
right now, so let's see what we can work towards. But it's on
I love
some
it.
days she's louder than others.
I love. Oh no, that's just yes. I
Yeah,
love it.
some
So
days she has a microphone really loud, some
she's
days
got
she's
the mic.
whispering. Yeah.
So 5 to 10 years, and this is a very very good answer, and it's true. She
Hmm.
must have been saying the same broken record,
Yeah.
but you didn't. You're not listening to her as much as you did before, or at least
Hmm.
that identification is
I
much less.
noticed that she's quieter now because she feels like she doesn't have to protect me as much
Mm.
anymore. The ego, as I said earlier, is created to protect us, and so I feel like she shows up more somatically now. Like if there's something going on, it shows up more in my body, which is usually in the pit of my stomach or in my throat.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, so it shows up more somatically.
That's I think either I read somewhere by someone, but they were saying that when you kind of have gone through this state of growth mentally, like first is the conversations, right?
Yeah.
Then the talk would show up with emotions, and like you
Hmm.
said, in your body, because that's kind of its last. It's the kind of the last stage, if you wish, because it knows you don't listen to it BS anymore, if
Yeah.
let's say it that way. And now it's the emotional pain that it's more difficult to deny in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, and our emotions are stored into the body. So think about being a small child, and a parent tells you you're in trouble, what you're doing is not it's not good enough, and then the parent kind of takes away their love because they're punishing you because you're not good enough or you didn't bring all like excellent, results
Great.
from school, whatever grades. And so I remember feeling shame in my tummy, like this big
Wow.
burning sensation. And because when
Mm-mm.
you're a child, you're not allowed to express, your emotions. Most of us anyway. So I was
Mhm.
not allowed to fully express my emotions. So I remember having to swallow like my tears or anything like that. This is all stored in the body. So
Wow.
now through somatic practice, which I did, I do a lot of breath work, like deep, conscious, connected breath work, and I actually am now a practitioner as well. So I facilitate it for others.
Beautiful.
So when you breathe, you silence the mind and the body is in charge. So it may manifest itself with like a lot of tears, yawning, coughing, sneezing, or a lot of body movements. And so
Wow,
you
Ellie.
release, you release, you release. Oh, it's a lifelong journey, but it's very
Wow.
exciting. Yeah.
It
So
does sound
what you
that way.
said made a lot of sense. Yeah, it moves from the mind. The mind is
Hmm.
okay now. You're cognitively aware, but the body still holds some
Hmm.
stuff.
Well, because when, like you said, but Marsha says, or if my talker says you're not good enough, let's say, or whatever the sentence he used to say that I fully believed. I actually didn't know there is such thing between believe and not believe. It was me. I thought
Yeah.
that was me, right?
Yes.
But now, after all that work, like I don't believe it,
Yes.
or very rarely I do. But
Yeah.
it shows up as pain, whether it's
Yes.
stomach, like you said,
Yes.
or back pain,
Yes.
whatever discomfort. And then it's easier to fall into its traps because, well, I'm hurting. It must be real. Life must suck. I must suck. Like it's
Yeah.
more. It's easier to get right. So that's the kind of the final level is what. Um,
Hmm.
I want to take us to the topic of children, and because I think it's fascinating to talk about children and their talkers. Now, I
Hmm.
went to a swimming pool years ago, and there was a 4-year-old child in front of me, a boy, 4 or 5, maybe no more than 5, probably more close to 4, and he was yapping, and he was like we were in line to do a slide. He was 2 kids in front of me. He was trying to push kids away, and he's complaining how slow the line. It's like an adult
Yeah.
in a line, like that. His talker was loud and clear and very apparent at age of 4. Let's go at age of 4. At what age do talkers develop? I guess based on your experience.
Yeah. Well, so the ego is formed in the first 7 years of our life.
Okay, so
The
early.
talker per se is, children, maybe I would say in the first 2, 3 years, children are all like giant hearts running around. They are just very impulsive. They're governed by emotions. The talker, so if you observe like a 4-year-old who had no self-control, so the talker is, if it's an inner critic, I don't know if this child was experiencing inner criticism or was he a very impulsive child who was not taught how to control themselves or even taught like basic manners.
Mm-hmm.
Lineups, when you see a lineup, you need to wait. But I would say the ego, the inner critic, is probably, I would say, maybe around like late preschool, like kindergarten age, is when children are starting to like separate the self and start to comparing themselves to others. You would hear kids say like something like, "Oh, I'm like, my friend made this Lego ship, whatever, mine is not as good." You're never gonna hear a toddler say that.
No,
But as soon
no.
as they like hit maybe preschool age, but I would say around the kindergarten age, they're like very clear in comparing, and it's becoming younger and younger, to be honest.
Younger and
Because I
younger.
remember as a child, my gosh, at age 11, I was still playing with dolls. I was just so innocent. And yeah, it's becoming younger and younger, I feel like, just because these children, they're exposed to a lot of information that their brains are not cognitively prepared or
Cognitive.
wired
Yeah.
to be
Oh, wow.
exposed to.
Life
Yeah.
is definitely faster. So I would second
Yeah.
what you just said.
Hmm.
Should we, based on that, Ellie, should we have this in school, and in whatever format? But mental health and awareness, mindfulness, however we want to call it, given its importance, it affects you the rest of your life. Should we not have this in school
Oh,
early on?
absolutely. Yeah, from very early. Like I know in daycare where I was working, we did have some mindfulness, and I know some elementary school do have mindfulness moments. Um, but
Wow,
I think it should be, I don't know how it is. I know some countries do incorporate that. I don't know about Canada. I know kindergarten classes have started implementing it.
that's
But I
beautiful.
think overall emotional intelligence should be taught to children.
I agree with you, and maybe that will help with this cry. I mean, I think the Earth is in not the Earth as the planet, but we as humans, we're in dire need for more mindfulness. Do you think we have, given all the problems that we're facing as society or as humanity, do we have a chance at this?
Yes, yes, I think we do, because more and more people are realizing that what we've been doing, it's just not working. It's not
I
working.
like it.
And
I like
I think, based on my experience, I see more and more people waking up and really
beautiful.
being curious about emotional intelligence. So I think it's
Beautiful.
generational. So I do have high hope.
Beautiful. So we're looking for that critical mass, right? Because there's osmosis. At the end of the day, enough people will wake
Yes,
up to create this kind of
I think
avalanche.
so. I think so. Yeah, and we might go through a bit of a hurdle before that, just because some people are just in a, in order for you to become emotionally intelligent, you need to face yourself first
There's no
before
other
you
way.
start understanding others, and
Hmm.
that can be very uncomfortable. So only the brave and courageous ones will do it.
Oh, it can be a dark street, a dark room
Yes.
to step into. I can
Yeah.
speak from personal example, and
Yeah.
especially as a man,
Oh,
um,
yes. Yeah.
where I'm coming from anyway. I like the feelings, the topic of feelings. I mean, I don't know, maybe hungry. I knew when I was hungry, that's a feeling. But the rest
Mhm.
of it, like, I mean, we didn't talk about feelings,
And
right?
hungry is like, it's more of a state. It's not an emotion, you
Not
know?
even, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's
And
why
so
I
behind anger, for example, which, a lot of men are told, oh, men are just angry. Well, men
mhm.
could feel abandoned, ashamed, embarrassed, rejected.
Absolutely.
And the sense of shame is directly connected to anger or sadness. Sometimes we have
Hmm.
to, men are just not allowed to express how
No,
sad they are. And I work with a lot of men, and it's interesting how they are not even allowed, because if they work in the corporate world, especially,
you gotta be
if
strong, the
you
strong
gotta be
person.
strong, otherwise you just, yeah, you don't belong there.
Mm.
You're not a man. You're not a man enough.
Man enough. Yeah, no, we've heard that
Mm.
before. But I think, like you said, there's a lot of bubbling underneath. There's a lot of change.
Yes,
I think
yes,
already, even in the corporate world, I've
yes.
personally done a few talks and early in my life, and you can see it doesn't matter what position. Men are also now more and more curious. It's
Hmm.
not like it's becoming. Ellie, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation. There's one final question that I always land this conversation with. Before that, I wanted to say that just listening to you, I want to sign up a class with you right away. I mean, a wealth of knowledge, and it's just, I mean, incredible. We just scratched the surface. I mean, I know I
Mm.
wrote so many things I wanted to ask, but as I said, we commit to about an hour, and then hopefully we have a part two with you in the future,
Yeah.
where we can
Mm.
dive in again. But the question I usually ask is, if Marsha was a real human in front of you right now, separate the new physical human standing right in front of
Mm.
you right now, what would you tell Marsha?
Uh, Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for being there for me, to
Oh,
protect me for potentially hurtful situations. Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. So
So,
I've
so it's
befriended her. We're besties. Yeah, she still shows up and she serves a purpose. But I know where she's coming from. So yeah,
but she doesn't own you anymore,
she
as
doesn't
in your
own me.
mindset.
Yeah, and I still say it. You don't need to protect me anymore. I'm good.
It's wonderful.
Even if someone is to be mean to me, or if I made a mistake, or whatever else it is, I like, my heart is well rounded enough to take on the pain. So if I was to feel a pain, because it's painful, if someone
Hmm.
criticizes you, if you make a mistake, but self forgiveness has been the antidote to Marsha's. So yeah, there's a Marsha and there's a Maya, who is my empowering, my cheerleader.
Ah,
So yeah,
beautiful. Maya is a beautiful name. That's a
yeah,
beautiful name,
yeah.
Maya.
So I have
Maya.
Maya, who is like my cheerleader, and Maya and Marsha are both like around me. So the three of
That's
us are having a
beautiful.
great time.
I'm loving it. Like this, Ellie. Like it's been amazing. I mean, as I said, lots of notes. don't judge, be curious. This is gonna stay with me, and I've heard similar versions of it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Always be curious, stay curious. Right, life it's wonderful. Self-compassion, we mentioned that a few times. Befriending the talker, befriending Marsha, right? Whatever you call Marsha, name the talker.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful first step, right? And again, Ellie, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the listeners when in regards to the talker before we end this beautiful podcast?
Well, I guess, yeah, thank you for listening and watching. And I would say that the comparison to others, it can be very disempowering. So the first step towards healing is looking at our own personal journey.
Beautiful.
And yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Step number
So
one,
step number
look at
one,
yourself.
look
And step
just number two is yeah,
look,
self-compassion.
look for a professional. I was gonna say, but self-compassion.
Yeah, self-compassion, and you deserve better. You deserve to be
you,
happy.
I'll end with this. You deserve to be happy. We all do, all beautiful
Mm-hmm.
humans. But I do want to stress on the fact that, like Ellie, what a wonderful human being and professional. There's probably many others, maybe around you too. So I don't think it's shameful for men, especially. Look for help.
Yeah,
Look for help.
absolutely. Yeah, it's not about help can mean like learning new skills, because most of
Hmm.
us had to go to school to learn a trade to in order to do our jobs. This is just like that. And I mean, we go
Exactly.
to the doctor when our stomach hurts or head hurts,
Mhm.
or, and I'm like, doctor, but for the mind. I'm not a doctor. I just want to make it clear. I didn't
A
go to,
counselor.
medical
A
school, but
counselor.
I did go to school to learn about how the human psyche works and neurobiology, how our brain works. So I would say that if you want to be happy, just learn about yourself and who you are. You're going
I
to be
love
your
it.
best friend for the rest of your life. You have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well want, make friends with yourself.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. We'll end with that. Thanks, Ellie. Again, it
you're
was a
welcome.
beautiful conversation. Thank you for listening to my tribe. Share it or leave me a note. Remember, your talker isn't you. Presence is. Less talker, more presence.